Today we're going to talk about the reality of being a Korean language learning student in South Korea. I am Elisa. I lived in South Korea for 2 years as a language learning student. The hours that you spend in class is 4 hours. The first and the second one, you normally study a little bit grammar and a little bit of new vocabulary. And then in the third and the fourth, you do a little bit more of an application of the grammar and the vocab into real context. So either you do some exercises, writing, speaking, listening. It's always the same thing, and every day you learn something new. You're just adding up to what you're learning. Between each hour, you have a break of 5 to 10 minutes, and then you go back to class. Normally, it starts either at 9 and it ends at 1 p.m. or it starts at 10 and it ends at 2 p.m. You're not gonna have any Koreans in your class, but you're gonna be with foreigners coming from all over the places. Thailand, China, Japan, Philippines, Europe, US. Some ways to speak the language outside of class can be finding people online through them app or like language learning apps and practice with them. Join activity teams or sports teams in your neighborhood. You can ask the teachers to recommend you some, like if you like hiking, some hiking group, or if you like skating, some skating group. One last one is to hang out with the students in your areas. Go to the coffee shop and maybe you see someone that you're like see often around, maybe go up and talk to them. Some apps that I always recommend in South Korea are Naver Map, Kakao Taxi, and Papago. Naver Map is the Google Map of Korea. Kakao Taxi is the best way to get a taxi in Korea. Papago, it's a translation software that helps you translate Korean to other languages. Classes are Monday to Friday, morning till like early afternoon, which means that you're gonna be busy throughout the whole day if you also go home and study. Yes, it's possible to travel around and have maybe a longer weekend where you go to Busan, Gyeongju, Gwangju to explore new places, but at the same time, your attendance scores will go down and you have to keep your attendance up to 70% if you want to pass the grade. The secret is to speak the language, talk to as many people as you can, snack vendor in the street or to the coffee owner. Every opportunity that you have, just talk as much as you can. And it's gonna be awkward and weird at first because you don't really know the language. It sounds weird, you know, you're making mistakes. So definitely like that's something you have to get over if you want to actually learn the language. If you're actually committed and you have a goal that involves Korean, for example, you want to move to Korea and work into Samsung, I would say that since you have a goal and you have a vision, it's way easier for you to learn Korean. In 3 months, you should have at least good basis, and within 6 to 9 months, you will be able to actually have just like small conversations with people. If you're actually putting in the extra work, and within 1 year, you can actually have like a good level of conversation skills that you can just go up to anyone and talk about whatever you want. So one thing that I really think it's important when learning a language, it's the motivation. Always remember why you're learning the language. That's the most important thing. That's gonna definitely impact how well you're gonna speak it and how well you're gonna study and how well you're gonna do in your tests as well. So always remember the reason behind your actions. It's good to learn the basics grammars. However, if you speak, you actually get into action, experiment, make mistakes, learn faster. If you study the grammar, it's like repeating it to yourself, but you never use it. So you have to use it in order to actually learn it. So always put the priority on speaking. The best way to memorize vocabulary is to actually use it, because you can memorize as much vocab as you need, but when it's gonna be the moment of implementing it and using it in real conversation, you know what it means and how you write it, but it's a little bit more difficult to actually use it into the conversation. If you don't have the chance to use it, just record yourself making sentences with the vocab that you just learned. And also try to picture yourself in a situation where you're actually using the word while explaining something. One of the best ways to actually implement your vocabulary into like real conversation that actually stick with you, it's by describing how to do something. So for example, when you're swimming with a friend and your friend doesn't know how to swim, you just describe the act of swimming, because if you describe, you need to be specific about the movements and things you have to do, and therefore you need specific vocab. And if you use specific vocab kind of like on a daily basis or like often enough, it's definitely gonna stick with you. Okay, making friends, it's a little bit hard because you're a Korean language learning student. You don't have any specific point of contact with Koreans. There's definitely ways where you can meet friends. You can meet them through apps, you can meet them through sports activities or just like community activities, friends of friends. There's many ways, and it's even more difficult to actually maintain a friendship with Koreans. Most of them are really busy. Koreans also don't really feel comfortable talking in English. They tend to like stay away from foreigners, or they're just not interested in having foreigner friends. It's gonna be easier for you to make friends with students who are learning Korean as well, or exchange students. It's good because you're not gonna feel alone, but at the same time it's gonna have an impact on your language learning. The more you speak English, the more you get accustomed to it, the less you speak Korean. Yes, as every language, it is really awkward being a beginner, but you can always improve. In cases you feel isolated or homesick, make yourself as busy as you can with other students, get into a community, voluntary, and also if you feel like you need to talk to someone, your teachers are always open to talk to and are always welcoming. It's okay to not know the culture or the language or anything about Korea before landing. So some small cultural etiquettes that you should know, and I think they're really helpful. When you're on an escalator, always, if you don't want to walk up the stairs, always stay on the right, because the left lane, let's call it that way, it's left for the people who want to walk up the escalator. So if you stay still, stay on the right, and if you want to walk up, on the left. There's so many different ways you can do it. You can talk to your teacher and ask about it. Search for it online on Facebook, for example. There's so many different groups, or ask friends. Probably at least one person that you know has done it. And yes, exchange language meetups are safe and nothing is gonna happen. Normally, you just meet in a coffee shop. There's few Koreans, there's few foreigners, and you just like exchange a little bit of the language, you exchange a little bit of the culture, you talk about your routine in your home country, they talk about how they live in Korea. You can talk just about whatever you want and whatever you're curious about, and then you maybe move to a restaurant and have some more time there. There's not many challenges being a foreigner in Korea. However, it might be the case that once in a lifetime you get into a restaurant where owners are a little bit old people and they don't want to serve foreigners. Don't take it personal, just move on to the next restaurant or whatever you feel like. If you're open to adapt to their culture and their lifestyle, I would say that it's really easy and it's also welcoming. Instead, if you want to keep your core values from your home country and just like behave how you behave in your home country, you'll have a little bit of a harder time, just because different cultures have different behaviors. So it's really important for you to adapt to the situation and adapt to the culture as well. I think South Korea is the safest country I've ever been to. Nothing ever happened to me. I've been around at night alone so many times. I used to go for walks at like at 1 or 2 a.m. in like these small alleys and stuff, and nothing ever happened to me. Nobody ever followed me, nothing weird ever happened. It's really safe. There's so many cameras around. There's also so many police buttons in case of emergency. One thing that I would suggest you is you're gonna spend a lot of time in the subway or like on the buses. And one thing that I would suggest, make sure not to waste that time. You're gonna just stay on the subway with your phone. Please, please don't spend your whole hour on Instagram or on social media, and please download ebook or study or do something that actually benefits you, because you're gonna waste so much time and you're not even gonna realize it. So a typical weekday for a language learning, it's pretty basic and it's a pretty structured routine. You wake up, you go to class, you have those 4 hours, and then you finish, you go to lunch. You're probably gonna go back home or go to a cafe with some friends to study. You have homework to turn in for the next day and the teacher checks it. And if you haven't done your homeworks, you get a mark, like a minus. And then you have time either to go for a walk or a run, bike ride. If you find like a sports activity around, you can do that. And then it's dinner time. Of course, it's not like being in a K-drama, not have this much higher expectations, but it definitely matches what you see online. You do go to lots of coffee shops, you get different types of drinks, you go to different restaurants which have delicious food. It is a good lifestyle. It's pretty easy to manage how to explore the city as well, because as I mentioned, you can go study to a coffee shop which is on the other side of the city, and you still have like that different vibe of like, oh, it's something new, it's something different that keeps you engaged while you're doing something that you have to do, which is studying. So it's like mixing these things up and just like trying to keep it engaging as much as you feel like you need to. Say the healthiest way you can actually meet people in Korea is through communities, like voluntary communities, sports communities. You can ask your teacher to help you find clubs that involve activities or sports, and then if you want a little bit more of a spice or just test it out, you can go to bars and clubs. There's few areas, Gangnam, Apgujeong, Itaewon, and Hongdae, that are really famous. Hongdae, I think, is the most famous among foreigners. No, there's no such a thing as pressure to fit Korean standards. Honestly, you're a foreigner to their eyes, and that's gonna be it. Like, they see you and it's like, oh, foreigner. Then you may speak Korean, know the language, and live there. But like, that's another level. You're always gonna be seen and recognized as a foreigner before everything else. Speaking, it's really difficult to speak at first when you don't really know the language and you're like at really basic level. It's difficult to get out of your shell and just like try to talk to people, but I would say it's also something that you have to do. Like, that's the first step towards actually learning the language. Of course, it takes practice, but practice makes perfect. So do not think about like, oh, my sentence is imperfect, so I'm not gonna say anything, I'm just gonna stay silent. No, just speak. Even if you're missing a verb, even if you're missing the subject, even if it doesn't make sense off of it, like, just speak. They're gonna correct you, which is helpful, because like, you actually hear yourself and they're gonna let you know how you actually were supposed to say, and you're like, oh my god, okay, I did that wrong. And you just like start to think about it in your own mind, and it makes so much more sense. So just speak. It's really uncomfortable, it's really awkward, and it feels so wrong, so like full of mistakes, but that's the whole point. You're just there to learn. You gotta start from somewhere. So just go for it. Okay, let's talk real facts right here, right now. Do not set the expectations of finding the Korean boyfriend from like the most beautiful and romantic K-drama you've ever seen on Netflix, because that's not the case. It's really not the case. You're not gonna find like every corner a Korean prince that is just waiting for you to save you from the car coming behind you. That's not reality. Reality is that you're living in a city with 10 million people and everybody is doing its own thing. So you're just there to study the language. You can learn the language, and what if you put yourself in this situation and you have like good mindset and you practice and everything, it can happen that you meet someone. But at the same time, do not expect to go to Korea and be like, I'm gonna meet my boyfriend, I'm gonna get married to a Korean, because that's not the case. Yes, you can meet someone, of course, but you're not gonna meet a K-drama actor, or you're not gonna be like fall in love like this and you're gonna have like this super romantic and beautiful story. But that's definitely not what you should expect. So what I would say is that if you're thinking of going to Korea, go there for the reality, not just for the set expectation from the K-dramas. So this is a little bit of the realities of being a language learning student in South Korea. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna share more about my experiences. Bye bye.